fucking hacked El Nino! I have proof! Why didn't Donald Trump sign the Paris Accord? Why?
Yeah. Sup? You muted again? Do you think we'll ever start a show without you muting your mic?
Do it out of common courtesy for your brilliant introductions that are starting to get almost sound legit.
Yeah, it's hard to make things sound legit and not have YouTube block you, because YouTube is an asshole. So last week's got blocked again, second time in a row.
Nice. For what this time?
I think this one was for the Office clip and for the 90s commercials. So I've got a new intermission video.
Does anybody still claim ownership of the 80s commercials or 90s commercials?
Who wants them? Except for me.
Right.
Like, if there's somebody out there who wants to use these for anything at this point, let them, because they're not doing anything else.
Yeah, it's not like you're getting any money out of them, so let us.
And it's certainly not like I'm saying. It's certainly not like I'm putting like, hey, check out these awesome commercials I made back in the 90s for Skip It and Blow Pops.
Yeah, right. You're trying to make money off of their product.
Yep.
Like just in, we have a back stock of Blow Pops that we found on eBay, and we're trying to sell them.
Yep. Well, how's everybody doing? Welcome to the AntiNews, your weekly dose of bad misinformation or good information. Who knows? We're probably fake news. This is the place where we sit back, chillax on a nice Monday night. We drink drinks and smoke smokes, because Craig doesn't want me to plagiarize Greg Carlwood anymore with drinking a little drink and smoking a little smoke, even though he didn't come up with that.
Plagiarized him. You just said it again.
Anyway, Shock Troop is back here with us. Shock Troop asks. He says, "Oh shit, that's a good song. What is it?" He's referring to Confetti by the band To Kill a Monster, which is a friend band of mine out in the Columbus, Ohio area. They're fantastic, and they've been friends of mine for a good while. I've recorded their last couple albums and did their music videos and their artwork and all that fun stuff. So check out To Kill a Monster. They were our opener for today. But Craig, it's Monday. How was your weekend?
It is Monday. My weekend was long, and I don't know. I had a kid's birthday party, an 8-year-old's birthday party.
Those are always fun.
Oh, yes. Yes, especially when it's like 95 degrees outside, and we're doing a pool party at the in-laws, so we're all like huddled in a garage trying to stay out of the sun as much as possible because it is miserable out.
Yeah.
But overall, it was a pretty good weekend.
Yeah, well, just so everybody knows, in case we get cut off, right at the official show starts at 9:11 o'clock. So once it is 9:11, no matter what we're saying, we will be jumping into the official show and cutting the small chat bullshit.
Doesn't matter how important it is. Right at
that is true. Craig could be telling me about how his great aunt died. I guess that'd be my great aunt too. He could be telling me how his child died. We'll take it that direction. But if it's 9:11 o'clock, we jump into the real show and don't care what he has to say.
Even regardless of if it's my dead child.
I would hope you wouldn't be on here if your child just died, and I was finding out on here. That means it's pretty recent.
If my child died and I wasn't on here and 9:11 o'clock happened, then what would happen?
If your child died and you weren't on here, I would still have a 9/11 dance party at 9:11 o'clock. I'd be just as much of a prick as I always am.
That is pretty messed up.
So, for me, over the weekend, Kayla's family had a family reunion out at a campground over the course of 3 days, which was a lot of fun. It's not always my cup of tea. It's always, well, for me, it's fun to get together with people and have some drinks and stuff, and I didn't mind the heat all that much either. Sometimes I did, but for the most part, it was good. The only thing that I don't like about reunions and things like that is, like during the day when you're hanging out with everybody all together, it's like just noise and there's no real communication, I don't feel like. Then, like at night, after some more drinks and you have whittled the crowd down to the people who are willing to stay up and, you know, play some games and stuff. We played the game of Nasty Things. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's pretty hilarious. Just an adult board card game type dealio. But doing that I really like, because I don't know these people all that well. I know them from like once a year, family reunions, but it's fun to be in a small group doing ridiculous things. Because you learn a lot from games like Nasty Things. You learn a lot about people.
You learn how perverted Granny really is.
Yes, it is the first time in my life that I have had I won't say old, I've had a middle-aged woman point at me, who I don't really know, and shout, "Camel cum."
That's new.
It was.
Can't say I've ever experienced that either.
I pointed it out at the time because she did it so aggressively. She was just like, "Camel cum," and I'm like, "Well, that's a new first for me." She's like, "What do you mean? I've never had somebody point at me and shout camel cum." But now I have.
Nope. Now things are moving up for you.
Well, we got 45 seconds. You want to sneak in another story?
No, because then you'll cut me off.
That's the point.
My thing keeps saying poor internet connection, so hopefully we can make it through this. I'm not sure if that's my end or your end.
All right. Well, I'll give the announcement that, if you don't have a drink, go grab it while we intro this. If you need a smoke, go grab that, and you can call in later at the number that's down at the bottom of the screen. And after the show, we're having the live after party for members of the Downers Club, which you can join by going to patreon.com/thesystemisdown. And with all that said, and without further ado, it's that time again. All right. You ready to kick this thing off?
I realize when you're sitting in a chair with only from the nipple up, you have to maximize.
You got to really work that upper body.
The upper body, yes. It's all hands and head, and if you can get your nipples going, then get your nipples going. But I haven't got my shimmy down yet.
All right. Well, guys, we're going to jump into this official episode of the Anti-News, and we'll see what happens from there.
All I ask is, if we have to give these bastards our lives, we give them hell before we do!
The tragedy of our day is the climate of fear in which we live.
Talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing.
But ask the congressman to withdraw that comment and tell us that he didn't really mean that.
Half the stuff before they do what I call nastiness.
I don't know what I said. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
The Bible commands that certain people be put to death.
Thieves were possessing weapons of mass destruction. 9/11 attacks were carried out by Al-Qaeda.
Handle the truth.
I remember that with Matthew Moses. We are still here!
We have to say yes to socialism.
No, tomorrow.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
So if y'all are new, that's our new intro, because I got sick of everything. I got sick of YouTube taking every single little clip and scrutinizing it and giving me crap and pulling the videos down. So instead, I took a million little clips, way too small for them to be able to recognize as somebody else's content, smashed them all together, and made something that we can put our name on. Craig, what do you think?
Genius. I like it. Except, I think the AI bots will still be able to catch on.
Yeah, I think you're allowed to use like a couple seconds, like up to 5 seconds of a song, like at hockey games and stuff when they play like a little intro to a song and then they cut it off really fast. It's not just because they're playing, it's because that's all they're allowed to play. I don't know. Maybe I'm making things up. That's what we do here. Speaking of making things up, I don't have a whole lot of news personally tonight. I've got a few stories, and we usually have way too many, so that's probably for the better. But,
yeah, probably.
Yeah, I can kick it off, or do you want to kick it off, or what do you want?
Oh, what's your theme of your first one?
The new norm.
The new norm. Hey, that might flow nicely throughout the entire show with a lot of the stories I have. So, just you go ahead.
Is yours about Norm Macdonald?
No, I'm talking about like norms, like the norm, but we can tie it together with the word norm. So,
gotcha. Well, in entertainment news, there's a couple things that have happened. If you're going to segue out of this one, I got to say before that, I got to give an update on the Eminem MGK back and forth. Eminem has shot back. It's primo. So it's a little strange, but he definitely took the kid and wrung him out, and it was fantastic. I think they're both doing fantastic jobs, and I think that they both need this right now. Like MGK needs it because he's been plateaued for the last 5 years, and so is Eminem, and it's only going to be beneficial for them both to continue this feud. Which is funny because I brought that up to Cole and Chrissy the other day at the reunion, talking about this topic, and he's like, "Oh, it clearly they're in cahoots and they're working together and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "So that's conspiracy you can buy? Like, show me these people. Who are those people? And who's this they?" And like, just like giving him shit for him being anti-conspiracy everything. I was like, show me your experts who have the evidence that MGK and Eminem are in collusion on this. Anyway,
right.
that's the entertainment news. There's not really a whole lot to say there unless you have something.
I haven't listened to Eminem's shoot back yet, but from what I've heard, he pretty much murdered MGK. Is what the entire. It's probably one of those things that Eminem broke the internet. You know how every big ordeal breaks the internet.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well,
otherwise, I haven't listened to it.
Listening to MGK attack Eminem, to me, was more entertaining because I know more about Eminem. So all of the references he's making are way easier because everybody knows about Eminem. They know all these things.
Right.
They know he has a weird beard, and they know he has whatever. He talked about his daughter and his anger and all that stuff. It's way easier to digest MGK attacking Eminem because we know Eminem. We don't know MGK, but he dug pretty dang deep into the guy's history, and he's just like, here you go. I shouldn't be doing this. This is just going to give the whole thing credence, and I'm going to have to respond to every stupid clown who responds to my album where I called everybody out.
So why did he respond to MGK then?
Well, he had to. Nobody else has really responded yet, so he didn't have to, but I mean, it only benefits him to do it, so why wouldn't he? What else has he got going on?
So you thought you thought it was a success then, like a nice blow to the stomach?
Yeah, I think it was a good blowback. The song's called "Kill Shot," I believe, and it's got a picture of MGK's face with a scope and then like a smiley face in the center. So,
we talked about how MGK might have a death wish based on if Eminem follows suit with like the OG rappers like Snoop Dogg and stuff like that. We talked about that last week, I think. Yep. So you think there's a little bit of context there that Eminem's trying to play into, like threatening him, or do you think it's just part of the,
I mean, Eminem's always been I killed my girlfriend and put her in the trunk and blah, 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 and buried her body. I killed my mom and stuff like that.
He didn't do that in real life?
No, he did not. But no, I don't think anybody takes Eminem like threats of violence seriously and not as metaphor, because he's been doing it for so long. We all know. I mean, he's not like Snoop Dogg, who's tied into things that could actually be prosecuted as murder. But, Anyway, this is supposed to be a short one, so let's move on. My other entertainment news was Norm Macdonald. He has a new show out called Norm Macdonald Has a Show. It's on Netflix. And
That's what it's called?
Yes.
Norm Macdonald has a show called Norm Macdonald Has a Show?
Yes. Have you watched any of it?
No. I don't even know who Norm Macdonald is.
Get out of here. You don't know who Norm Macdonald is? Imagine somebody on SNL impersonating Burt Reynolds. That's Norm Macdonald.
All right, fair enough.
You would know him if you saw him, but he's
about to look him up.
He is legendary. He got fired from SNL originally. Fired because he was doing.
How do you get fired from SNL?
Well, that's the beauty in it. He was doing the weekend updates, the news segments that they do. He was in charge of that for a time, and one of the higher ups in the company was friends with O.J. Simpson, if I have to clarify.
All the other OJs out there.
He was good friends with Orange Juice, but no, he was good friends with OJ, and Norm Macdonald kept having these great jokes against OJ and Michael Jackson during all their scandals, and they told him lighten up on the OJ and the Michael Jackson stuff, the OJ and the MJ, and he did not. He just kept them coming, and he got fired for it, which is like it just shows you like how this guy is going to fare in this comedic economy, like, because he doesn't give a shit. His occupation is comedy, and he gave up potentially the best gig in comedy to fire some shots.
So he never went back to SNL after that?
No.
So we're talking early mid 90s, when comedy was a whole different ballgame back then than it is now. There wasn't all the tiptoeing around things and trying to be politically correct and not saying this about this person or that. And this guy gets fired for doing exactly that.
Right.
And now he's trying to start a comedy show in PC world where
that's the thing.
You don't even have to say anything to get fired now.
There's new controversy around Norm Macdonald because he made some jokes, quote unquote jokes. I suppose they would be, I don't know, jokes or just statements. But he was like, he said something to the effect of, I don't remember. I don't actually have the official story pulled up, but I've heard so much about this quote unquote scandal where he was like supporting Roseanne as a friend, and he was telling her, I think that you should talk to Louis C.K. like, because Louis C.K.'s in kind of the same boat, and he's like, Roseanne's my friend. I called her the day after the situation, and she was crying. And so I don't want anybody to kill themselves. I don't know if she can bounce back from this, and she's horribly depressed. I told her to talk to somebody else who's going through it, who I don't think was that big of a deal. Of course, bam, backlash for both of those.
Of course.
But he made some sort of joke or statement that was like, it used to be if 100 women accused you of something, you got to believe them. Then it was like, if one woman accuses you of something, you got to believe them. Now, if no woman accuses you of anything, you got to believe them. Like, why? Like, just like...
That's not even a joke. Yeah, that's just real life right now.
Right, but everybody took it as the hashtag #MeToo movement is garbage, and Norm Macdonald is a Trump-supporting racist or something crazy.
Oh, of course.
But
because of one basic statement. Basically what he just said. Don't even have to say anything, and you get murdered for it.
The saddest part about this is Norm Macdonald, who was once, he was told that he could never come back to The View, whatever that's called. He was banned from coming on The View.
From The View?
From The View. Does that really surprise you?
Oh, no. You don't get to go talk to Whoopi and Joy and listen to them haggle you for 2 hours, 2.5 hours?
So this was like, I don't know, quite a while back, somewhere probably around the same time as him getting kicked off of SNL, but he made he was like, we need to get the murderers out of the White House. And they're like, what are you talking about? He's like, Bill Clinton. They're like, what do you mean Bill Clinton? He's like, He freaking murdered a guy. What are you talking about? I thought this was on the record.
I thought this was public knowledge at this point.
Yeah, so he got removed from The View for that. And now in 2018...
How long ago was that?
It's been a while. Probably back around the end of Clinton's era, but...
I didn't even realize The View was on back then.
I don't know. I could be wrong.
Joy were on back then or not?
I could be wrong. I don't know. That's what we do here. But anyway, this all leading up to now where he said this thing, people got outraged, and I'm guessing that Netflix had something to do with him coming out and kind of... Well, he went on The View. He went on The View to give his apology.
After he was banned?
Well, now he went on The View for his new thing. Actually, he went on The View after he went on Howard Stern to apologize for saying the things that he said on Howard Stern. And he ended up slip of the tongue saying something like, if you don't think that I sympathize with the victims, you gotta have fucking Down syndrome or something.
Worst apology ever in the history of apologies.
Yep.
I'm sorry I had a Downs moment there.
Right. So he went on The View to apologize, I assume, for all of it. And
offending one group of people and offending another group of people in the process.
Right. And I watched the View interview, and it's just sad to see him kind of bowing down a little bit. I mean, he doesn't like give him too much. He's very real about it. He's like, yeah, the Down syndrome thing I shouldn't have said. And I was thinking one thing and said something else. I think he might have been thinking retarded and was like, I could have misinterpreted what he was saying, but I think he might have been saying, I meant to say retarded, but instead I said this thing.
Because that would have been so much better.
Right. End of his interview on The View. I was just like, oh no, stop. It just feels like this guy who is so great, he's just like a whipped dog. Like, yeah, like he's not.
I hate that.
He's not like over apologizing as far as like being super gushy or anything. But he's like, yeah, I shouldn't have said that. And he's just like really quiet and really reserved. And then he's like, at the end of the interview, he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't offend you guys or anything. It's like, that's what you have to do now. You have to end with, I'm sorry, I hope I didn't offend you with words. And he's like, all these people getting accused of things. I said words. I haven't done anything. Like, I'm getting thrown into the same lot as people who do sexual misconduct with people.
See, that's the typical, like, what they want the typical stereotype male to be now is the guy that constantly looks at the floor, like, kind of kicks rocks and kind of hem-haws around and apologizes, makes sure he didn't offend anyone and doesn't get in anybody's way. That's what we want men to be now. We don't want strong men. We want these weak guys that we can stomp all over and accuse of anything just because we're men. And that's, I mean, we're obviously violent rapists, so we should be ashamed. We should have our tails between our legs all the time. It's like when a dog knows that it shit on the floor and you come home and it's just like looking at the floor and his tail's between his legs and it's hiding, making sure it doesn't get in your way.
What'd you do?
Yeah,
I raped again.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I considered raping somebody today because I looked at a girl in the eyes. It's just that's the world we live in. I said naughty. So there, I mean, and forget the testosterone-driven men anymore. It's the tail between the legs, man. That's what we want. So, I mean, we just got to start practicing being like Norm and just. Now, I mean, I don't even want to look at the camera right now because I'm too ashamed.
I don't want to give him too much crap because nothing he did was terrible, and he's always been a boundary pusher to the extent of all of his detriment, and like you gotta just let comedy be comedy at some point, and don't assume that every single thing that a comedian says is like what they're going to do immediately after the show or an interview or something.
Right.
It's a joke. But the good news, the silver lining to all of this, which I actually found before I found all this controversy, is Norm's new show. Norm Macdonald has a show on Netflix, which is probably the reason why he's getting all this backlash all of a sudden, because people are like, hey, Norm Macdonald's going to start talking again. Let's shut him down. But Norm Macdonald's show is the most beautiful, show that I've seen as far as a late night comedy type talk show type deal. It's him, his friend, and a guest, like popular guests like M. Night Shyamalan. I've just watched the whole season. I can't remember any. Drew Barrymore.
You said popular guests?
David Spade.
I've heard 3 washed up guests so far.
Well, they all have stuff going on right now, even if you're not paying attention.
Oh, do they? All right, I'm not paying attention.
That's fine. But yeah, he has these guests on.
2 years ago, they were washed up.
And this show is like, if you this won't make sense to you because you don't know who Norm Macdonald is, but Norm Macdonald is super like awkward, dry, hilarious, brilliant humor, and his whole show is just super dry awkwardness. Like there's no intro music, there's no intro. It's just like, what's his name? Never mind. It's just like he just sits down and starts talking to these people, and they don't even realize that the show's going, and they'll start talking about something. He'll interject with just this most awkward randomness and telling funny stories and stuff. It is this very unstructured, very not sitcom format. Not sitcom. Why do I keep saying that? Talk show without the talk show format. It's great. It's very loose and awkward and fantastic. But he does not talk about anything of controversy. He does not talk about politics, which is unfortunate because I would love to hear Norm Macdonald do a talk show about politics. But at the same time, I'm also like, I don't want to. There's so many. I can see why he's not doing that. And apparently the guys, the Netflix guys or whoever produced it or something, they were like, we're not going to make this topical because that doesn't age well. We're going to make a show that's funny, just a funny talk show that doesn't have to do with current events. And it's fantastic, and I would recommend everybody check it out.
I might have to check it out. You said it's on Netflix?
It is.
Before we get going, moving on, your lovely wife commented and said she couldn't find the link to the show. So
tell her to go to youtube.com/The System Is Down.
I shall do that.
Or she could look at all the links that I posted. But before we segue into the next, I gotta say, I meant to say it at the top, that little clip that you saw at the beginning about the weather being racist was the great Owen Benjamin, fantastic comedian who gets his own share of hardcore controversy. He just posted that video today or yesterday, and I thought it was fantastic and hilarious, so I felt like posting it. I didn't think that YouTube would mind me posting somebody that they hate. But Owen, sent you an email or two. If you're listening, hit me back. Come on the show. And go check out Owen Benjamin's and all sorts of fun stuff. So
you showed me that intro about 6 days ago.
I did.
Which means
and it took way too long to do.
5.5 days to look into.
What'd you do in the last 5.5 days for the show?
I have a job.
Oh, okay. That's a fair excuse.
I don't do this full time like you.
Sure.
Anyway, speaking of, we're gonna stay kind of on the same topic.
The new norm.
The new norm. The new norm. The PC world we live in. The contradictions of the PC world. I don't know if you notice, like people that get all like up in arms about stuff, they will contradict themselves a lot, especially like feminists and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden you throw, I think our favorite Frank had talked about this, so I'll give him credit at least for this part. You throw in like transgender in there, and it's like, well, now transgenders want feminist rights and stuff, and it's like now men are stealing feminism from feminists, and it's like, where do you draw the line there? Yep. It's like, who do you get mad at? Because now you have a man trying to be a woman, trying to get the women's feminist rights, right. But you're mad at men, and
they have a front hole.
You can't wrap your mind around this, because now do I get mad at the people that are mad against the transgenders, or do I get mad at the transgender because it's a man trying to steal women's rights?
Yep. And
so that's just the world we live in. When you get too up in arms about stupid things all the time,
everything,
it's very easy to contradict yourself. And that's just kind of where we are. But this was an article.
What is it? What's our hashtag? Hashtag lefties jump the shark.
Sure.
Yep.
This is in Forbes. This article was released, I think, yesterday. This one is referring to James Gunn. Again, we'll bring that back up. This says
he's the Guardians of the Galaxy guy. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
The guy who got fired for his gross pedophile comments on Twitter.
Yeah.
And saying, I mean, he could easily he's said just the same as your guy Norm that these were all jokes and blah blah blah, but it was way more over the line.
If I like them
Norm.
and think that they're not terrible, they're all my guys.
Well,
your guy,
I don't
Dan
know who
Harmon,
the guy is.
Your
so
guy,
it's not
Louis
my
C.K.
Guy.
Your guy,
No,
Norm Macdonald.
I'll take Louis C.K.
Okay, well, we can share.
I didn't know who Norm was, so it can't be my guy.
And this has been our list of sexual deviants that we support.
So this is James Gunn. It says James Gunn's firing is what happens when we outsource.
We're kidding.
Morality.
We don't support sexual deviants.
Can I go?
I'm sorry if I offended anyone.
Now look at the floor.
Oh.
All right. So Forbes magazine released this article. I'm guessing it's like an opinion or an op-ed or something like that. It says James Gunn's firing is what happens when we outsource morality to capitalism. First of all, break down that title for me. What do you think about that title?
Capitalism.
You need me to read it again?
What does this have to do with capitalism?
Well, you will find out.
Okay.
When we outsource morality to capitalism, this is what happens. So this is a little lengthy, but I got to guess. There's quite a bit actually in this one. More than our typical articles that we read like the first two sentences and know exactly everything about it. This one actually has quite a bit of content to read. So this might take just a couple minutes. It says, in 2014, Disney hired director James Gunn to carry out the impossible task of taking Guardians of the Galaxy, a comic property so obscure that even committed fans barely recognized it, and turning it into a blockbuster. See how they're already building up James Gunn right there.
Yep.
And
the
somehow
committed fans of Guardians of the Galaxy didn't even know what Guardians of the Galaxy was?
Exactly. Committed fans of Marvel probably, or comic book fans. Somehow Gunn did it, and now not only is Guardians of the Galaxy a multi-million-dollar franchise, and its star Chris Pratt is the man of the hour.
Whoa!
But that's some serious accolades.
Mm-hmm.
But the characters and world introduced in these films are so popular that the locales and feel of them have come to invade the Marvel brand and other titles such as Thor, Ragnarok, and even Avengers Infinity War. So they're bleeding Marvel worlds together, like the Marvel Universe.
Like what they've always done?
Yes. The entire endeavor was a massive success, and Disney is still cashing in on it today, so that is why it is so shocking when, just a few months ago, Disney showed Gunn the door. It all started when conservative writer Mike Cernovich uncovered old tweets on James Gunn's account that make light of rape, pedophilia, and more topics difficult to describe. They're just going to brush right over that sentence really fast.
Yeah.
So Cernovich spread his findings.
where he makes fun of rape, pedophilia, and some other things more difficult to describe.
So difficult to describe, we're just going to wash that under the rug.
Let's not even try.
So Cernovich spread his findings and soon caught the attention of Disney executives. Then within a few hours, James Gunn was fired. This is odd. We live in a capitalist society, and Disney, being one of the most profitable companies in the world, is a part of the integral structure that defines it. As such, it makes sense that this company would want to constantly chase profit to ever grow their power, influence, and most importantly, their wealth. So in what way was Disney's firing one of their most lucrative directors a wise financial decision? It wasn't. But to understand why Disney thought it was, we need to look into how consumer behavior is changing. A study last year with Cone Communications found 87% of consumers said they'd purchase a company's product if the company showed that they cared about issues consumers cared about. And 75% of consumers said they would not buy from a company which showed they didn't care. If business execs and CEOs are following along, as they surely are, the lesson is if a company wants to stay on top of the modern age and if they want to maximize their profits, then they need to beat their competitors not only with their superior products, but also with demonstrated superior moral behavior. So this is a marketing scheme for them to be moral. Their marketing morality is where this is going. Mm-hmm. This, on its face, does not appear horrible. Indeed, this new development has led to a lot of undeniable good.
Indeed.
It's the idea that gave the hashtag #MeToo movement its bite and toppled industry giants such as Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, and Les Moonves. I don't know who that is. It's this strategy that led Warner Brothers to mandate an inclusion writer, Sony to diversify their comic titles, and Marvel to get their heroes to visit children in hospitals. So how could any of this be negative? Well, consider the other side of these attempts. So
maybe if somebody's posting pedophile tweets, they don't want their stars visiting children in hospitals. So just a thought.
Already, they're saying, oh, they're only moral because it makes money to be moral. It's financially beneficial to be moral. But which is good because they fired people like Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, and Les Moonves. But firing James Gunn was stupid.
An immoral atrocity. Because of entertainment. I mean, I still think it's a bad precedent for Disney to set that if somebody finds something stupid that you said 10 years ago on Twitter, that they're going to fire you. But I understand why they would, just to keep their name semi-untarnished any more than it already is. And, well, it's going to happen to everybody else, though. And you set that precedent. Are you going to fire everybody who gets this call?
So it goes on. This is my favorite paragraph. It says, consider the other side of these attempts at corporate responsibility, the efforts that look good but help no one. What am I talking about? Consider that we recently had a major movie with a song celebrating differences and being true to yourself. They don't tell you the name of the movie, but there is a link. You click on it, and it's The Greatest Showman, which was a fantastic movie, by the way.
Still haven't seen it.
And the music was fantastic.
That's what I hear.
And Hugh Jackman singing is still odd, yet he's really good at it.
Yep.
I just want to
Have you ever seen him tap dancing?
To do it. Yes.
Okay.
Consider that we recently had a major movie with a song celebrating difference and being true to yourself. That sounds good. However, the plot of the film is actually about exploiting minorities for profit. The movie is about P.T. Barnum. How do you make a movie about P.T. Barnum without him exploiting the midgets and the bearded women? And
is it exploiting? Did he force them into it, or
No.
was it like, hey, I'm looking for a really short person to be a really short person for this act, and they were like, I'm a really short person. Is that exploitation?
Back then, those people had no other shot at doing anything. I mean, as horrible as it sounds of him exploiting, yes, he did financially gain from this and make a huge profit. However, they would have been probably thrown in asylums or thrown in prisons or left on the streets.
They were called
never
freaks.
had anything. Yes,
that was a socially acceptable term at the time, was
right.
The freaks and the freak show. And they had this weird ability or this weird thing about them that made them freaks to society, and P.T. Barnum accepted them and said, hey, do you want to put that on display? And I will praise you and pay you to do so, and all you have to do is be a freak. And then they're like, yeah, that's the opposite of exploitation.
Right. I mean, I'm sure there wasn't the movie doesn't probably go into the darker sides that P.T. Barnum probably was a shiesty businessman.
Well, we're saying this with no evidence whatsoever, no reason to think that, unless they know something that we don't.
I mean, I've heard rumors that he just wasn't as great as the movie portrays him, but I don't care. It was a great movie. I don't care. Anyway, moving on. Says, or consider that we had a woman cast in a Marvel franchise playing a role normally reserved for a man. Sounds progressive, right? Until we realize, get this, that this is also an example of a white actor trying her best to look Asian and thus limiting diversity.
What do you want?
Also,
who's the character that was supposed to be a man and then it was supposed to be an Asian woman? Oh, we're talking about Doctor Strange. Tilda Swinton played the old Asian dude.
Okay.
So would they have been happy if it was an old Asian dude? Or would they be mad that he's a dude? Like,
then it would have been a man.
There isn't a right answer.
No, absolutely not. Also consider that Sony decided to try and help fight back against bullying. Noble intent, but the way they went about it, they helped put up posters oddly suggesting that bullying could be stopped with sending positive emojis. Again, all of these sound sort of good on paper, but in practice, they help no one.
I can agree with that.
Yes, but how does that fit in with the other ones at all? That's just like they just found there's like something else, another company, the emoji poster. You remember that emoji poster? Yeah, I think we could work that in there. It says, this problem we encounter when we outsource moral responsibility to the capitalist machine. Our companies currently do not know how to be properly
Capitalism
moral.
is about giving the people what the people ask for, and the people asked for more diversity, and they gave them a woman, and they said, no, it's not a Asian man. Like,
no,
that's capitalism.
In
yes.
these people's opinion, the most ironic part of it, this is in Forbes magazine. Forbes, the one that like praises the top billionaires in the world.
Mm-hmm.
A product of
I want to be a billionaire so freaking bad. I want to be on the cover of Forbes magazine. That's
because
what
capitalism is so bad.
Because capitalism makes us all racists.
So, this is all. It says no matter that the behavior actually does nothing positive for anyone. I read that. This is all the more true in the case of James Gunn. The capitalist machine tried to respond in such a way that looks morally responsible and so fired him. What's the difference between that and firing Harvey Weinstein? Or frickin' Kevin Spacey?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, they didn't actually physically do anything. I guess that's the difference, is James Gunn didn't do anything. But Kevin Spacey hasn't been accused of it, or hasn't been actually found guilty of anything, but they still fired him. Yeah. But that's okay, but James Gunn's not okay. In reality, James Gunn's specific case was not black and white and needed careful, deliberate consideration. Instead, Gunn was ousted and labeled a problem, leaving us to deal with what all of this meant. I'm sorry you got to figure something out on your own and actually formulate opinions in your own brain instead of the world and Disney and these big companies formulating opinions for you and telling you what to think. They make a decision. You're like, oh no, I got to think for myself now.
Yeah.
What do I think about this? Even if you disagree with it, you at least formulated that opinion on your own.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
We did not deal with it neatly. Subsequently, the film's stars have all come out against the decision. An army of other celebrities have all called out Disney, and a petition to reinstate Gunn has gained over 400,000 signatures. And Hollywood has actually empowered internet trolls and created
and everybody wants The Last Jedi to be redacted from Star Wars canon and redone. Are they going to follow through with that? Who cares about your petition? Screw you. Right. Disney's running a business, and they know what their bottom line is and where it's going to benefit. Do you think when they bring in a new guy and he makes an amazing new Guardians of the Galaxy film that people are going to boycott it and not go see it? No. They're going to be stoked because it's a new movie.
Issue. You're contributing to the problem, because the problem is we're putting bottom line and morality in one sentence.
There is no problem.
We're choosing to be moral because of the bottom line. It's not Disney chose to be moral. I didn't even say back then, oh, they did such a good job of being morally responsible. No, I said back then,
do whatever
they didn't want to lose a shit ton of money. That's why they fired him. Yes,
do whatever's best for business. All these other movies, like all the Star Wars movies, most of them, they've had directors on for a movie, and then like 6 months later, that director disappears and somebody else takes their place. And we don't hear about we don't need a reason for any of that. We're just like, oh, they must know what they're doing. We trust their decision making and they must have been making a bad movie. We're going to, trust Disney on this one. But when it's this, and it's like you can see what he's doing, and you can see why they wouldn't like it, for some reason we're going to defend that and think that that's a big deal.
So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to cut down to the end of it. It says, cool. In short term, all this may be fine. All of this helps us get greater diversity on screen, which you cried about, and helps us remove sexual predators from executive offices, which you're kind of crying about. But in the long term, the author.
Okay.
In the long term, if we cannot teach Hollywood the nature of the ethics we care about, then the culture of the industry will only shift backwards with time. The Band-Aid solutions will dissolve, and then a few decades from now, it will come out that another big executive has been harassing employees for years. There's always going to be assholes no matter where you are. It doesn't matter what you do to try to fix
humanity.
That. Right. People are assholes by nature. You're not going to get rid of all the assholes by becoming an ethically responsible company. You're still going to hire a guy based on his credentials, and he's going to turn out to be an asshole.
Yeah.
That's just the way the world works. There's right. More assholes out there than there are good people.
Can you make a great movie? Make the great movie. Did you break the law? Then we're going to have to talk about that. Anything else in between, I don't care about. If you didn't break the law, if you did some shady stuff, but it wasn't breaking the law and they can't prove they broke the law, I would have no problem with them keeping James Gunn. Don't care. But I understand why they did it.
You just hear the circles being gone through. It's just like, oh, we want diversity. It's great that we're getting females to play male roles. This is the great part. They're like, oh, we got this awesome diversity because we got a female to play a male role.
What color is
she? Played an Asian role.
What color is she? What color is the character?
She's appropriate. It's like she was appropriating the Asian part of the role. It's just like she was appropriating the male part of the role before she was appropriating the Asian part. You're okay with
Did you hear any backlash from her playing a dude?
No, that's the thing. It's just like, oh, that's great diversity. So what's
they should have got a transgender chick to play the role because that's what it was, right?
So it was like an agender, pretty much is what.
Basically. She was just playing a noble sage. Doesn't matter what the gender was, and I did not care about that. That didn't even feel to me like a forcing thing, like Ocean's 8 and Ghostbusters and the new Lord of the Flies and all that, for shoehorning women into characters. I did not have any problem with it. She plays a nice old sage. Whatever. She's not Asian. She's not a dude. I'm fine with it. Shut up.
I just want to know, why isn't it considered diversity when a white person plays the Asian role, but it's diversity when the woman plays the male role? What's the difference there? It's just like, oh, look at all this diversity. We got people of different races playing different things. If it was the other way around, if an Asian person filled in a white person role, great diversity there. But the other way around is just absolutely ridiculous. And again, we're white, so
we're not allowed to say anything.
We don't understand. We just don't understand. And part of that is probably
we're not just white, we're gingers, so we're clear, if anything.
Yeah. Larry's not white. Larry's clear. So, I don't know.
Where's that from? That's from Space Jam.
Yeah, come on.
I got it in like 0.3 seconds. Leave me alone.
It was 0.3 seconds longer than it should have taken you. So I got another one along the same lines if you want me to just keep on rolling with it.
We're getting a call, Craig. I'll have to let you go, and we'll call you right back in just a second.
Cool.
If I can remember how to draw I haven't gotten a button for that yet. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, who's this?
Your lovely wife.
Oh, hello, lovely wife. How are you doing? You're on the air.
Hey, I know. Thanks for mentioning. Do you not trust me?
Gotta let you know, you're on the air, so, keep it civil.
That's hilarious. Speaking of white people, I thought you might like to know what happened in local news tonight in Mercer County.
Tried to get you to do this last week. We've got Kayla, the local news reporter with the local news. Kayla, what's the local news?
There you go. Should I read it in a reporter voice?
Please do. Here, I'll bring you in. And now we're going to Kayla with a live local news report in Mercer County. Kayla, what do you got for us?
Thank you, Dan. Tonight, city aldermen briefly discussed the low turnout for a public hearing held at the fire station to hear public opinions about moving to a single garbage hauler. Okay, so I created a poll because city people are fired up about whether or not we should have a single garbage hauler for the town of Aledo, 3,700. Okay, so 47% so far say hire the low bidder, 53% leave option to residents. That's out of 106 votes, and you should see the wall blowing up with the diverse opinions. That's all I got.
So can you say that in layman's terms?
Are you serious?
Just give us the abridged recap, because I was totally listening, and it totally made sense to me, but for the listeners who are slower.
I could have swore that's what I just did, though. Single garbage haul. Okay, so either people get to decide who... Hey, I'm working on it. Either people get to decide who the garbage hauler is, like there's 4 different options, I think, for Aledo residents, or the city implements it and charge you on the bill. So the mayor says that they're only going to do it if it's going to turn out cheaper for the residents, as well as they get to collect some fees on top for road repairs. You know
Taxes.
what I mean? So, right. Overall, it would still be, he says if they implement overall fees included, it would still have to be cheaper than the average citizen pays for garbage per month, which is $21 to $25. Was that summarizing enough?
Yeah, that makes sense. So basically we're deciding between a company, a social garbage company that you have to use or nothing, or this has less to do with white people, even though we're a very white community, and more to do with capitalism versus socialism, because we could have a bunch of options. We could choose the best one.
I think Right. Well, I think that, yeah, you said capitalism, so you lost me. I don't do mumbo jumbo. But Shock Troop, I want to speak to Shock Troop, who said for those of us who don't live in Aledo, ... It matters because if you are not involved in making your local government libertarian, like, okay, so I didn't say that right. If you're not involved with making sure your local government doesn't overstep their reach by controlling who your garbage hauler is, controlling who your whatever is, then what's even the point? I mean, we're talking about Trump or all those other things you want to talk about, but we can't change it. It's all just put in place anyway by whatever. Level. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and I'm glad that that's the side you chose. So you are for... No, you are for having multiples, correct?
Yes, options. I'd rather pay, even if you look at the differences, if you look at the bid that the low bid came in at, and you think about how much in fees they're going to add on, we might save $5 a month. It's not worth $60 a year to me to forfeit my freedom and choice. Cut it in half. If I get my garbage for $10 a month, hell yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'll give up my principles at that point. However, $5 is not worth it. That's all there is. I am here for the local point of view and integrating how we can be libertarian locally. You're welcome, everyone, in Shock Troop.
Thank you, Kayla. But you did say capitalism was mumbo jumbo, so not sure if you've got the libertarianism
joke. Why
down.
does nobody get when I'm joking? It's a joke.
It's
you
all
can
right.
even hear the sarcasm in my voice currently.
Yeah, I hope I didn't offend you.
Fuck you.
I love you. I'll talk to you later, and we'll come back on next week for the local news report.
Hey, you know what? Next week they're going to continue the conversation on the garbage
Perfect.
issue on Monday night. So
We can get the update.
Update. Yes, that's right.
Sounds good.
Yes. Love you and Brother Craig. Peace
All
out.
right. Love you. Bye. All right. Well, that was Kayla. Craig, did you hear any of that? Craig, your mic is muted. And you give me crap for not figuring out these really technological problems. You have to push a button. You have to push a button on your mic. And you cannot figure that out.
There's just a delay. There's just a delay.
Well, I didn't hear anything that you said before you hit that button, so it doesn't seem like a delay to me. But no, she said she was like
capitalism's mumbo jumbo.
It's not point here. She said, speaking of white people, she gave the local news report, which I think we're going to have to do weekly. I told her to do it last week, but she didn't call in. But she just got back from a meeting where they were discussing whether or not the Mercer County area should have one garbage person or garbage company that is selected, and everybody has to give into that. Kayla, feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm saying this wrong, but one garbage person or multiple people that you can choose between. And then she said capitalism was mumbo jumbo. She said that was a joke, so I'm not bringing that up.
No, I know.
But
I caught that was because there's a delay on the video feed, so
yeah,
I caught
20 seconds.
You don't get my joke, and then you came back on, and so the last thing I heard was that was a joke.
Yes. So yeah, basically she's saying yes, this does apply to everybody. It's not just local news. I mean, if your local government is saying that you have to do this, then why? Ask why. At the very least, ask why.
I've never really questioned trash pickup because, I mean, that's just like the thing that just happens. You don't really think twice of, except for when you're dragging your cans to the road.
Right.
But I do see that specifically with like cable providers where you have one monopoly in town. I mean, there's
or
7 or 8 different
the post
providers.
Office or the DMV or the government things.
Yeah, those are the government things, but I'm talking like even privately owned things, like garbage companies or utility companies are privately owned, or cable companies and phone companies, where you can't even start your own cable company in town because the cables are all monopolized in town. So it's like, well, I want Comcast. Well, we can't be there because Mediacom's there. It's like, but I want Comcast. It's just like, well, maybe if you allowed, which I didn't hear the whole context, but it sounds basically the same thing. Maybe if you allowed multiple companies to come offer their products, then that's going to only drive prices down, and it's going to only drive service up because these cable companies know that they are the fastest in town. Yes, you can get like satellite TV, which is a lot slower, or satellite internet, or the phone line internet, but it doesn't compare at all to the cable company. And they know that. That's why they can have shitty customer service.
Right.
And you can get on the phone with them and they can tell you how wrong you are, and you just either deal with it or you just get your service shut off. It's like, if you don't like it, go find another company.
Speaking of shitty service, Shock Troop just said, Frontier is the best internet! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Then he has a laughing, crying face. So I'm assuming he doesn't really mean that. And I hope he doesn't really mean that, because there's a reason why after 3 years of Frontier, I switched over to Mediacom. It was because every now and then I'd be like, hey, why is the internet not working? And I was like, oh, it's Tuesday or Thursday or whatever the hell. It just might not work for some reason. Frontier is possibly the worst that I've ever had.
When I worked for Dish, one of the biggest complaints people would give when they'd switch over to Dish is that, like when a dish goes bad, the problem is between the dish, the wire in the house, and your TV in your box. With cable, you have a line that runs all the way down the road, all the way to the cable company. And they would actually give the excuse, well, it seems that there's a problem probably a mile down the road, and we have no idea what the issue is, so it might be a while before it's fixed.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the answer you're giving me. So I'm paying for this service that I don't have now, and you're giving me an indefinite, I don't know when it's going to be fixed.
Here's the thing. I'm paying you for one thing. It's internet. You know what I don't have? That internet. Why am I paying you? I don't have any reason to be paying you. You're not giving me that thing. If I put 50 cents in to turn my TV on every time I want to turn it on, and I put 50 cents in and it didn't turn on, I want my 50 cents back.
That's like when I kicked CenturyLink to the curb because they couldn't get my stuff downloading over like a half a meg or something like that. It was something ridiculous. And they're like, well, it says here the guy came in your house, so you owe $75 for him coming. No, I don't owe you nothing because my internet doesn't work.
Right.
Well, you're going to have to take that up with collections. Do you want me to transfer you to collections? No, because I don't care about my bill because I'm not going to pay it if my internet doesn't work. Well, that's not between. I don't care. Do not transfer me because I don't care.
Password along. I'm not paying if I'm not receiving. Sorry.
Right.
That's capitalism. And on that note, before we get into the next one, let's take a quick 6-minute I think our current intermission is 6 to 6.5 minutes. So if you're not drinking a drink or smoking a smoke, you've got a little bit of time to go get that while we transition here into the last half hour of the show. And after that, we will be jumping over into the after party for the Downers Club members only. If you want to be a part of that, you can do so by going to patreon.com/The System Is Down. Also, please call in after the intermission. Give us some questions, give us some topics, kick Craig out of here. That's the most important thing, the main reason why I want you to call in. But, yeah.
Please get me out of here.
All right, quick break, and we'll be back in 6 or so. Craig, you good? You Gucci?
I am Gucci, I guess. Gucci Mane.
I swore I'd never, ever say that, but I think that's the first time.
That's pretty bad. Yeah. Please never say it again.
All right. Peace.
Somebody used the N-word on this show. It is not okay. It is not okay, Charles Kaiser. I respect you. I enjoy having you on as a guest, but not okay. By the way, I've never heard of this, so there's that. Take a break.
It's intermission time. Time for refreshment.
DonorSee is the best way to give your money. We have an ever-growing network of aid workers living all over the planet. These aid workers use our app to take pictures of people in need, post them to DonorSee, and then fundraise. After you give your money, the aid workers then post photo and video updates to show you exactly how your money was spent, even if you only gave $1. Are you looking to make the most impact with your money? Give on DonorSee. Do you know an overseas aid worker? Tell them to start posting. It's easier to post a project on DonorSee than a picture on Instagram.
Well, obviously there's things that I don't feel led to share on a camera and have go out because most people just wouldn't understand at least my willingness to be open about it, but I've suffered things that make me almost cry thinking about it.
Just can't believe he throws up.
I grew up on Houston, Texas, and I'm raised and born in Houston, Texas. I'm born from a rapist. I don't know, should I say that?
Whether you are black or white or rich or poor, born or pre-born, all of us matter, all have value.
Why are we seeing such an explosion, literally, of occultism in the last 50, 60 years? Because we're hastening to the time of the return of Jesus Christ.
We have been so dumbed down in our theology. We don't recognize evil when we see it anymore.
And I'm about to turn off a light, and I look down, I can see a black figure crawling on the ceiling.
I have a black demon that's ripping out my heart, that's shoving a poke down into another demon's mouth on my thigh. I have Medusa from the gates of hell on my back. I have a Baphomet on my throat.
I gotta go all the way back around, so stay on the line, okay?
I should have died. I don't know how I was still alive.
Oh, this guy just had a gun, just ready to just shot at us.
Why do people hate libertarians? One part of America calls them soulless robber barons who want to stick children back in factories, and the other part thinks they're drugged up anarchists. Who are they? And why have regular Americans been told to avoid libertarians and their ideas? Hi, I'm Remso W. Martinez, Amazon best-selling author of Stay Away from the Libertarians, where I'm going to debunk the myths, misconceptions, and outright lies thrown at libertarians, ranging from the idea that votes can be stolen to the radical notion that you own yourself. From personal stories to ignored history, history, I lay out the facts and ask you if these dastardly libertarians are as much of a threat as the mainstream media and establishment politicians make them seem. You can go ahead and get a copy in print and in Kindle e-reader on Amazon today. Stay Away from the Libertarians by Remso W. Martinez. Available on Amazon.
Overdoses have now surpassed car accidents as the leading cause of death in the United States.
Declaring war on the nation's opioid crisis.
Even though you have a child with addiction, you have hope. You have a whole world of tomorrow, because tomorrow was the day that he said, I'm done.
We cannot afford to lose one life. We got to figure this out.
I met with sheriffs, I met with pastors, and sometimes they say they need more Bible studies.
You know, we used to think of drug epidemics centering on cities. The drug dealers are going where the money is, and that's the suburbs, also in the rural areas.
They'll lie to us and say it's going to be better. It's not going to be better.
No parent should ever have to bury their child.
Anybody who's grown up in America has known people who struggled with it, may have had some struggles of their own.
Because toughness is the thing that they most fear. And that toughness includes the death penalty.
We will win. We have no alternative.
I'm done, I'm pissed, and I'm not putting up with it anymore. You Satanists want to sacrifice the West. You want to kill the beautiful goddess that is the West. You people are enemies, and we're going to get your asses, and we know what you're up to, and we're coming for you. So I've had enough of these people. Okay, so I've been containing this for the last week. That's why I've been in here sweating and getting pissed, because I can't handle it no more.
Can't take it anymore.
That's why I'm here sweating, getting pissed. All sweaty. Sweating in. Warm and moist and pissed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have another. I have a couple clips from him that I'm going to use in the near future. One of them is like him standing around a campfire giving one of his little InfoWars spiels, and you can barely see him. Yeah, there's like a campfire in the kid. Like he does these videos where it'll be like somebody on a phone doing a live video, and it's just like looking at the campfire, making it all dramatic. Then it pans up, and you can't even see him because he's like standing in the shadows, and the camera hasn't adjusted. He starts talking, and then he steps forward into the light. You can see that he's like just drenched in sweat, and he's all red. It's like,
and he's taking too much of his super male
vitality.
There you go.
No, he seems drunk to me, but that could just be me.
It's like you're taking way too much testosterone to have that much rage.
Yes. And I gotta tell everybody, before we jump back into this, for the last 20 minutes or so, I should have said this a long time ago, but if you're watching right now and you're not watching on YouTube, then your comments we can't see. If you go over to YouTube, click on the link, the YouTube link, and over on the right there's a comments feed bar. Not even comments down below. On the right side there should be a comments feed bar. We can see all those comments and we can know what you're talking about. But let's jump back and get a couple more stories. I've got one.
Do you want yours to be last or...
Yeah, let's have mine be last. You were kind of segueing anyway, even though we had a big interruption. But
well, I'll save more of the social justice warrior shit for the after party. We'll get into a little bit of
Hashtag
other
lefties jump
things.
the shark.
Exactly. Or please jump the shark, lefties, is what it should be.
I feel like they have, but they still have those dedicated fans who are still tuning in after they jump the shark.
Or the producers of Hollywood and people like that, the big corporate executives are trying to keep them by posting this stuff. Like, you should be outraged by this because white people are playing Asian people and women are playing men. That's good, but white people are playing Asian.
Yep.
So I want to kind of switch directions a little because this was an interesting story, and it's been on a couple different shows I've listened to. Did you get into at all the observatories, the sunspot observatories that were closed? One in particular. Have you heard?
That's my last story, man.
I thought
the
you
New
had
Mexico Space Observatory.
I thought you had an Alex Jones story.
No.
Oh, you said something about Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the end of the ads. Okay,
Yeah.
So this is our last story.
I've got an Alex Jones story. I'll pull it up while you talk about what I was going to talk about. Go ahead.
All right, fine. So it's actually hard to find the crazy pages today now that the official story came out. Now, if you Google
why didn't you put crazy in quotes?
I don't know.
Shill.
Apparently, the story as of a few days ago was this observatory that stares straight at sunspots, I guess, which seems bad to stare straight at the sun with a telescope. But
you might think so.
Apparently, a few days ago, the FBI raided this observatory, shut it down completely. Black Hawk helicopters swooped in to get everybody out of there, and it was just a big ordeal. Like, everybody done. Wrap up what you're doing. Get out now.
You don't got to go home, but you can't stay here.
Obviously, that sparked some of the conspiracy-minded people
Rightly so.
into complete craziness because what are they trying to hide from us? What did they know that's there that we shouldn't see? And some of the people I've heard, they've seen video of like a round object floating past a couple different times, a couple different sizes, and the story is that was possibly the moon drifting in view or something. Makes sense to me, I guess.
Yeah.
But this article here, I think this is one of the older ones. Yeah, this is from September 12th. So this is actually before the official story came out. So we might get a little bit of the old story here.
Well, I was really wondering who would run with this, the alien people or the flat earth people. Seems like it could be both.
It seems to be going the alien people. This one's titled...
Well, if the moon is drifting into focus, that might make sense.
Yeah, maybe. Mysterious observatory evacuation stirs alien conspiracy theories. The FBI showed up and evacuated the remote Sunspot Solar Observatory in southern New Mexico. Almost a week later, nobody knows why. So this was on September 12th, 5 days ago.
Yep.
It says, corners of the internet are a Twitter. Is that a word? Are a Twitter about a possible alien cover-up after reports that a Black
President
Hawk
Trump
helicopter...
today was all a Twitter.
After reports that a Black Hawk helicopter and federal agents swooped in and inexplicably evacuated a remote part of New Mexico, including a prominent solar observatory. FBI agents showed up at the Sunspot Solar Observatory in tiny Sunspot, New Mexico, is the name of the town of this. So maybe it doesn't look at sunspots. Maybe it's in Sunspot, New Mexico, or maybe it's named after. I don't know.
Well, that changes everything.
Right. It says on Friday, and shut down the facility, evacuating the local area, including the town post office. That's interesting. It says there was a Black Hawk helicopter. This is a quote from somebody. It says there was a Black Hawk helicopter, a bunch of people around antennas, and work crews on towers, but nobody would tell us anything. Ontario County Sheriff Benny House told the Daily News. I don't know why the FBI would get involved so quick and not tell us anything. 5 days later, the observatory's website confirms the entire facility is closed to both staff and the public until further notice. 5 days later. So this actually happened 10 days ago.
I read that they shut down the site, too. Does that mean the website?
probably the site. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out. It said they shut down the observatory and the site as well.
I don't know if that was the site, like the perimeter maybe, or the website. Yeah.
Keep talking. I'll find out.
It says 5 days later, the observatory's website confirms the entire facility is closed.
Okay.
To both staff and the public until further
Sounds like
notice.
it's probably the website.
But it says the website confirms. So it's actually, they're releasing statements on it. So it says the Association of Universities for Research in Astronomy, who manages the facility, is addressing a security issue at this time. Spokesperson Sherry Lifson said in an emailed statement, "It's a temporary evacuation of the facility. We will open it up as soon as possible." And then it shows pictures of, it actually shows a video, which I can't show you, obviously. It says some say the evacuation, it's just probably the video of the thing moving through.
Okay.
It says some say the evacuation could be part of a government effort to cover up discovery involving aliens, an impeding solar flare, or something else extraplanetary. Others on Reddit and elsewhere think the security issue may involve a foreign power attempting to use the observatory's antennas to spy on nearby White Sands missile range. The observatory was built by the military in 1947 when it realized the sun could interfere with radio communications, so it does look at the sun. The National Science Foundation ran the facility from 60s until this year when operation was transferred to ARA, that group that was making those quotes earlier, and New Mexico State University. Hopefully it isn't now in the process of being unwillfully transferred to aliens or foreign spies, but we shall see. And that's the end of that article.
Yeah,
so
apparently, as of today, it is reopened.
Yeah, and I have another article about the official story of today.
I went to sunspot.solar, which is their website. It says, "Thank you for your patience. As of September 17th, the Sunspot Solar Observatory is once again open for visitors to the site. Sunspot is now open, and we're ready to show you all the great science and public outreach we do at this fantastic facility."
But not tell you why it was closed.
Right, that's the thing. Like, in your About Us section, halfway down the page, there should be a big thing that says, well, the FBI also shut us down on September, 14th or 15th, and they didn't tell us why, but we're just going to continue on and be happy that our jobs are saved. Did you say
business as usual?
Did you say that the post office, the local post office, is closed too?
Yes.
That requires a whole lot of explanation, because if it was something to do with, like, Russia or somebody intercepting some sort of satellites or something to do with this observatory, which does this observatory really have access to satellite data? That
I don't know, but I don't know. It's nearby a missile facility. I don't know.
Okay.
It wasn't really satellite. It was like antennas on it. I don't know if it could pick up transmission from. I don't know. I don't know what Russians do with their time.
I think it's funny that people are spinning this into, conspiracy theorists are automatically thinking the worst because the FBI came to New Mexico and just shut the place down. A solar observatory, just shut it down and didn't say anything. We've got it back now. It's fine. But we're not going to say why. And the post office.
Not just the facility.
Yes.
But they shut down communications in and out. By shutting down the post office, they probably shut down cell transmission in and out of there too. If they shut down that, so
yeah,
and it's really easy.
That's
to
the
jam
point I was trying to make.
cell.
Like, if it was some sort of Russian interference issue, like, then why did we shut down the post office?
Right.
So nobody can send out snail mail about the FBI coming in.
Exactly. So NPR today.
This just in. Stop. The FBI. Stop. Has come in contact with the Solar Observatory. Stop.
That would be faster. Telegraph would be faster than the post office.
It's true. It's true.
So today at 3:44 p.m., so only a few hours ago, NPR released what seems to be the official story of why it shut down. It says, after mysterious closure, Solar Observatory in New Mexico reopens. Says the Solar Observatory in New Mexico reopened Monday after being closed by authorities for 10 days, which spawned national interest and speculation into the cause of evacuation. Let's get this out of the way. Scientists say that aliens were not involved. Of course they did. If they're shutting down a facility so you don't realize that they are looking at aliens, of course the official statement is going to say They're not involved.
Scientists say that aliens were involved, but there's nothing to worry about. Like, if there were aliens involved, what is that story? It's not going to be, hey, we're back open anytime soon.
Right. Why would they shut it down if they were going to come out later and be like, oh, by the way, that was because of aliens.
Right.
We just didn't want you to see them. So it says, let's get this out of the way. Scientists were paid to study this phenomenon of the shutdown to say that aliens weren't involved.
Thank you, science.
On September 6th, the Sunspot Solar Observatory was suddenly closed. So yeah, September 6th, that was 11 days ago. Was suddenly closed. It was reopened today. So 11 days closed.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, suddenly closed by the Association of Universities for Research in Astronomy. No, it wasn't closed by the association, blah, blah, blah. It was closed by the freaking FBI. The consortium that operates it without public explanation. People who work at the observatory and those who live on the site were asked to evacuate. The site's post office was also closed. The Otero sheriff told local newspaper that the office was alerted but not given any information. The Otero sheriff in the last post said, I can't believe they would do this without notifying us. So this says he was notified but not given information. That's a contradiction already.
Yeah.
Says the FBI is refusing to tell us what's going on, Sheriff Benny House told the Daily News shortly after the closure. We've got people up there that requested us to stand by while they evacuate it. Nobody would really elaborate on any circumstances as to why the FBI were up there. What their purpose was, nobody will say. But for the FBI to get involved that quick and be so secretive about it, there was a lot of stuff going on up there. There was a Black Hawk helicopter, a bunch of people around antennas and work crews on towers, but nobody would tell us anything. From there, it was off to the races. Combine the FBI, a powerful telescope. Combine the FBI, a powerful telescope, and a location in rural Sunspot, New Mexico, and you've got all the ingredients for some rampant speculation.
What else happened in New Mexico?
Roswell?
Oh, yeah, there's that.
There's that.
How far away is this from that?
I don't know. That's a good question.
You keep talking. I'll look it up.
Government surveillance, aliens, etc. That's the rampant speculation. Why the FBI closed the observatory? People have the right to know, one person demanded on the observatory's Google page. The observatory in Lincoln National Forest, about 170 miles south of Albuquerque, is home of the Dunn Solar Telescope. When it opened in '69, it was the world's premier high spatial resolution optical solar telescope, the National Solar Observatory says.
2 hours and 30 minutes.
Though it's now considered a legacy telescope, the Dunn continues to be one of the most versatile, user-friendly setups in the world. What does that have to do with anything? Yes, there's another telescope. So who cares? New Mexico is already associated in some people's mind with unexplained phenomenon. The observatory is about 85 miles southwest of Roswell, New Mexico, a town long.
Well, if you had read the story, you could have saved me the trouble and just said, I'm getting to it. Hold on.
I read parts of it. So what did happen at Sunspot? Why did they mention that whole paragraph about the other solar telescope not too far away?
Right.
I thought they were going to be like, those people said it stayed open and there was nothing to worry about. But no, it just says there's another telescope over there.
Just so you know, other places in the world have telescopes too. Now let's continue with the story.
Filler paragraph.
Yep.
A security threat, though the specific nature of the threat remains unclear. A security threat. According to a statement from AURA, the consortium and the National Science Foundation decided to vacate the site temporarily because of a security issue. AURA has been cooperating with an ongoing law enforcement investigation of criminal activity that occurred at Sacramento Peak. During this time, we became concerned. Are you still there?
Yep.
Okay,
yes.
Your cam turned off.
Yep, continue.
All right, okay. Are you naked? During this time,
my balls are out, but not quite naked.
During this time, we became concerned that a suspect in the investigation potentially posed a threat to the safety of the local staff and residents. For this reason, AURA temporarily vacated the facility and ceased science activities. So apparently there was a person there who was involved in criminal activity that posed to be a threat. Doesn't say what he did. Doesn't say there was terrorists involved or a Russian
Does it say
hacker.
his name?
No, it specifically says a security threat. Though specific nature remains unclear.
All we have to tell you guys is there was a patsy involved, and he's been taken care of. Doesn't matter. Just look over there.
All it says is a suspect in the investigation potentially posed a threat to the safety of the staff and residents. So they vacated the facilities. Decision to vacate was based on the logistical challenges, such big, official terms.
Yep.
It's based on the logistical challenges associated with protecting personnel at such a remote location and the need for expeditious response to the potential threat. That's so much political bullshit.
We need a word for the news when they're talking in newsness, like newsies,
right,
or newsinology, or something.
They're newsing us again.
Yep.
ARA determined that moving the small number of on-site staff and residents off the mountain was the most prudent and efficient action to ensure their safety. The consortium said that it recognized the lack of communication while the facility was being evacuated, concerning and frustrating for some. Really. However, our desire to provide additional information had to be balanced against the risk that, if spread at the time, the news would alert the suspect and impede law enforcement investigation. That risk we could not take. So the security risk doesn't say what he did, who he was. Again, that leaves it open. Maybe this guy saw aliens, and now he poses to be a security risk.
Maybe he was an alien.
Right.
That's why we can't say his name. We can't even pronounce his name.
Still leaving the door open. And as to the helicopter, House, the sheriff, told the Washington Post that Black Hawk helicopters aren't uncommon in the area. A call to an FBI
right after the FBI comes in? Yeah, that's right. It's uncommon. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a news story.
Let's see. Anything else of significance?
Doubtful.
Consortium said the site will have extra security for now because of people showing up at the facility since its closure. Given the specific amount of publicity the temporary closure has generated and the consequent expectation of an unusual number of visitors to the site, we are temporarily engaging a security service while the facility returns to a normal working environment.
If there was nothing,
sticking around.
If there was nothing, then why are we securing the site?
Because there's going to be other people coming now.
Yeah, what are they going to do? They're going to look at the website and see their hours of operation. Unless they actually post something of value, who cares about the site?
So this guy, James McAdder, the New Mexico State University professor who leads the operations of the telescope, was impressed by the theories that people came up with. His quote is, "It was the first time I've had to deny contact with aliens, death by solar storm, and underground tunnels, and new communications via X-ray all at one time." Fuck you, dude.
It's pretty. I'm sure that's true, though. And to that I say, good. Because if you leave something open like that, by all means, everybody, lob all your questions because they should be asked at that point. If you're not given answers, then ask questions.
And that's what we've said on all these conspiracy theories. If they would just tell us what the hell they're doing, we wouldn't come up with our own stories.
Give me a completely reasonable, logical explanation for why this is the way that you say it is, and all my questions will go away because you've answered all of them, and I have no reason to continue. And so, go ahead.
Then douchebag McAteer says, "We cannot wait to get back to work to show everyone the world-class research we do every day at the telescope." Then at the end it says, "The observatory's reopening means that researchers can get back to doing what they do. Staring at the alien.
Sun.
I mean, staring. It is. It says staring at the sun."
Does it really?
Yes. Doing what they do. Staring at the sun, it says.
That reminds me, I'm going to bring this full circle. One of the jokes that Norm Macdonald got kicked off SNL for after he was told not to talk about O.J. Simpson was something to the effect of, and I'm sure I'm going to slaughter this, but he said something like, such and such are pushing for a speedy trial with O.J. Simpson. They just want him to get acquitted so he can get back out there and do what he does best. Killing people. Anyway.
So true.
Yeah, and it is 10:30. We can continue this conversation over in the after party, and I've got an Alex Jones story that's about a week old. It came out right around the last episode, but I think it's still pretty interesting. We'll jump into that. We'll read some YouTube comments and scoff about those. And for those of you that don't know, if you're not a part of the Downers Club, on the after party, you cannot just it's not just calling in. You can call in, and then we'll call you back, and you could be a part of the whole conversation. We'll have you on the entire show. And I just gave Kayla my login information so she can call in if she feels like doing so. But, yeah, to all of you guys listening, thank you so much. And be sure to tune in to the regular show, The System is Down, every Monday morning. You can find that by going to tsidpod.com or looking up The System is Down on your preferred podcast platform, be that iTunes or Stitcher or what have you. Craig, do you have any final thoughts on the news that we've covered so far?
Gotta work on that mute button. Gotta work on that mute button.
I will learn how to keep you in a call when you learn how to keep yourself in a call.
I just want to get back to doing what we do every day, staring at the sun. I mean, you know who'd be great at that job when he gets out of his current job as the president of the United States?
Is it Jeb Bush?
Donald Trump.
Jeb Bush seems more like somebody who would stare into the sun and try and pontificate.
Did you not see during the last big solar eclipse, there's a picture of Trump standing out on the steps, like literally
squinting
looking directly at the sun?
We don't know when that was taken, but that was a great meme. That was brilliant.
That was fantastic. I'm guessing. I'm just hoping that it was taken at that event.
That's great.
He should get a job at the observatory immediately after he leaves office or is impeached or whatever he does.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that wraps up this broadcast. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to be a part of the after party, if you want to be a part of the whole conversation that we do after this, you can go over to patreon.com/The System is Down and sign up for as little as a cup of coffee a month, and we'll get you in there, and we'll have some fun together. So, Craig, do you want to do our wrap up here? Your mic is muted, you son of a bitch.
No, it's not. It's not. We can attempt.
Until next Monday morning for the regular show or evening for the anti-news, please question everything.
Question everything.
And stay uncomfortable. Okay. All right. Bye.
So here's my pledge to you. I will be a commander-in-chief that will have the back of the military. I won't trash talk. I won't be a divider-in-chief or an agitator-in-chief. I won't be out there blowharding, talking a big game without backing it up. I think the next president needs to be a lot quieter, but send a signal that we're prepared to act in the national security interests of this country, to get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.